Let's begin by telling you that President Muhammadu Buhari, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, and 44 ministers in the Federal Executive Council are expected to commence declaration of their assets ahead of May the 29th, when their tenure will end. The special advisor to the CCB Chairman on General Duties, Mustapha Musa, confirms that the necessary arrangement has been made for the issuance of the asset forms to the outgoing officials and their successors. Also, the outgoing presidential aides, 28 state governors and their cabinet members, National Assembly and State Assembly members and local government chairmen will equally obtain the assets declaration forms from the Code of Conduct Bureau and submit the same to the CCB in line with the 1999 Constitution. This complies with the provision of the Constitution, which stipulates that all public officers shall declare their assets and liabilities on the assumption of office and at the end of their tenure of office. But the President-elect, Bola Tinubu, the Vice President-elect, Kashim Shettima, and 28 incoming governors and their cabinet members, as well as the State Assembly members, have 3 months to submit their assets forms to the CCB. Inibe Elfiong is a lawyer and he joins us live via Zoom from Lagos. For more on this development, thank you so much for joining us on the news this hour. Mr. Elfiong, how important do you consider asset declaration for politicians in Nigeria, looking at the rate of corruption in the country?
Thank you for having me. It is actually very pertinent and important because at the time a public officer
Mr. Elfiong, we lost you momentarily. Are you there?
Yes, please. I can hear you clearly.
Right, carry on.
Yes, so I was making the point that upon assumption of office, the president, the vice president, all public officers, governors, ministers, and so on, across the country, they expectedly had some asset constitution to declare. As a matter of fact, this declaration must be done. They have to subscribe to the oath of office and also make their asset declaration, stating what they have in terms of assets and liabilities. Now, because of how corruption has become very real and prevalent in our country, we have seen people assume public offices and suddenly they become overnight billionaires. They have so much money, they acquire so much properties, estates, they have money in foreign accounts, which cannot be traceable to their legitimate earnings. This is why upon the termination of their tenure, it is expected that they should also make a final declaration stating what they have now attained in terms of assets between the period they assume office and when they left. Where we have problem is that between when public officers assume positions of power and influence and when they exit office, the Code of Conduct Bureau has failed thoroughly over the years to really explain to Nigerians what the outcome of their verification is. Because beyond the declaration, the Code of Conduct Bureau and Tribunal Act, and even the Constitution, empowers the CCB to verify these declarations. Now, how come that we have not seen the CCB taking steps in conjunction with the CCT, the Code of Conduct Tribunal, to prosecute people that have become overnight billionaires? So this verification has been kept in secrecy, and that is not acceptable. The other problem is that they continue to hide under the constitutional provision that says that, I think that is paragraph 3 of the 3rd schedule to the Constitution, that empowers the CCB to receive declarations and return them and make copies available to members of the public in the manner prescribed by the National Assembly. The CCB continues to say that the National Assembly is yet to enact a law prescribing how the public can have access to the assets of the president, the governors, and other public office holders. However, we have the Freedom of Information Act of 2011, which is supposed to apply, but unfortunately, we have a situation where the CCB is saying that until a special legislation is made for Nigerians to be given the access to these declarations, we cannot know what someone has upon assuming office. And that is very, very unfortunate because we are supposed to have that information. The media should be able to come out and say, This is how much somebody has. And I advocate going forward that in the constitutional amendment, the CCB should have a portal or a website where anyone can simply go on the internet and check the assets that public officers have. That will go to a great length in entrenching transparency, accountability in our country.
Right. We've actually been monitoring, monitoring of assets owned by public office holders. People will be asking, what difference do you think these have actually made, over the years? But then talk to us about, very quickly, what should be the legitimate source of income for public officials, and if there are extra sources of income, is there any penalty to this effect?
Well, we have the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission, which is constitutionally empowered to set and determine the earnings, remunerations, allowances of public office holders. And there is actually an act of parliament to that effect. The problem, however, is that we do not have an Unexplained Wealth Act, which is what is really, really necessary. There has to be an Unexplained Wealth Act to give life to the constitutional requirement of asset declaration. Because at the end of the day, if a public officer is found to have acquired more asset than the person had, how do we now link it to corruption if there is no Unexplained Wealth Act? That is why that act has to be passed in Nigeria, as we have in some other countries, so that if you are found, if you come into public office with one Toyota vehicle and you are living with 5 SUVs, you are living with houses in Abuja, in Lagos, in abroad and all over the place, and we now compare it, we juxtapose it with what you're entitled to, what you're supposed to be entitled to. One other point we must not miss is that corruption by public officers, they don't always do it directly. So if you look at the asset declaration forms, more often than not, you may not even see the properties that they have acquired, the money that they have stashed. They do these things by proxies, and EFCC has shown this in several cases. So what we need to do is to strengthen our anti-corruption laws, have a strong whistleblower act, and give the public officer the responsibility to explain wealth which they have acquired, which cannot be explained or justified on the basis of their legitimate earning. And where that is done, such assets should be forfeited to the government, and the individuals who are implicated should also be prosecuted. Right. That is one way that we can effectively fight corruption.
Well, lawyer Inibe Effiong, thank you so much for your keenness of insight on this. Thank you.